Right, we're rolling. On this podcast, we'll be talking about different areas of business and all things marketing. My name is Dave Doyle.
And I'm Dave Alton. This is Social Antics, another marketing podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Social Antics, another marketing podcast. We're in episode 4 now, I think, Dave?
Yeah, in episode 4, struggling through it.
Struggling through. How's things been?
Oh, it's a catastrophe at the moment. In reality, for me as an academic, I'm getting sick of teaching in front of screens, essentially.
I presume you mean the whole level 3 and the lockdown.
Oh, it's absolutely, it's catastrophic. Again, when you're lecturing, it's all about a performance, and you get to interact with the students. There's none of that at the moment. It's all online. It's all very diluted. So that's horrible. And then just in general, business is struggling at the moment. I'm involved in a high potential startup, which our main clients are hospitality sector. So that's
going well.
Yeah, so the brakes have been firmly put on that. And then other businesses are just, again, they're struggling. They're busy, but they're really, really struggling. So, but look, c'est la vie, that's life.
Tough time. We'll kick into the news anyway this week. I suppose I'll kick it off first. The thing that caught my eye over the last few days was Facebook is after rebranding and kind of adding a few new features onto the whole Messenger app. It's another move that for the last few months they've kind of been updating this, obviously due to COVID and what's been going on. But recently they've after adding rooms, collaborative video viewing, personalized stickers, customizable emoji response bar, and chat teams, and basically just making it all more colourful, more engaging. When you go and use it, I don't see much of a change. Have you had a look at it?
I had a look at it, no change.
No, it's not a massive change. It's more colourful, I suppose.
It's more colourful, it's more playful, yeah, it's the same. But they've been doing that a bit recently, like the rebrand that they did a number of months ago was when they rebranded Instagram, where when you open up Instagram first, it's now Instagram by Facebook.
Yeah, they have all the logos on the bottom.
Which is an absolutely, that's like having an advertising saying Porsche by Volkswagen.
And it's very quick, you don't see it. It's very, very quick. You'd have to be looking for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But they came out and stated that our new logo reflects a shift to the future of messaging, a more dynamic, fun and integrated way to stay connected to the people you're close to.
They've added the colour purple.
Basically. Yeah, it's a gradient logo on it. They also came out and said that basically 10 million people customise their conversations every day, so we know that personalisation is important when it comes to how you connect. Together with new delight features with selfie stickers and that are called and a vanish mode that is coming soon, making your chats fun and personalised has never been easier. Basically going down the route of personalisation. And look, it is very, very important now to the times we're in. As I said, there's more connectivity through online platforms, so all the platforms are probably in competition with each other to see where the attention is going to be.
Yeah, but it's all I really dread the phrase that you use there. People are customizing their discussions. Isn't that
they make it look pretty? Like if you're going to be spending so much time on it every day, they're putting a bit of a team on the background. They're putting a bit of work into it just because you've no one to talk to.
Put it except for you.
Except
once
for me,
once a week. In
the panic mode before we.
But it's weird. I just find it very I noticed one feature of the of the change was that they now allow you to have a default emoji. So if they're using an emoji so much, you just click it as opposed to going into your emojis and then putting it out. And it reminds me of the way things are going at the moment, which is where a lot of the platforms are finishing your sentences for you.
Yeah.
And I just find that really, really, again, depressing as well. But it's just what are you doing? Even if you go on to LinkedIn and someone sends you a message, you have the pre-authorized responses, as in we can't even be bothered to think anymore about having a legitimate response. We're letting LinkedIn respond for us. So the same with Gmail is now finishing your emails. Again, I know it's all about saving time, productivity and all that kind of stuff, but it just seems a bit seems a bit kind of bland, really.
Not interesting. Anything pop up for you this week?
I suppose the main one there was Facebook have started to crack the whip a small bit in terms of censoring content on their site. So as we know, over the last, since Facebook has been in the world, essentially, Facebook has always said that we do not want to limit free speech, or we do not want to be the sheriff in charge of our platform. Whatever message people want to send out there, we are going to let them send out that content. And in the last month, they've started to kind of censor content as it's appearing on their site. So by way of example, the Advance New Zealand party in New Zealand, obviously, which is kind of a really extremist right-wing party, they have had all of their content banned from Facebook. Facebook had said, no, this is extremist, it's sensationalized, it's polarized, we're not allowing this content to be posted anymore. Now, I think what's really interesting about that, and it kind of shows you the power of Facebook to these extreme parties on the margins. So if you look at the actual data behind it, if you look at all the content over the last number of months that has been shared by the or that has been posted by the Advance New Zealand political party, their content has been shared approximately 150,000 times on Facebook. If you combine all of the other mainstream parties in New Zealand, their total shares on the platform is just over 100,000. And the Advance New Zealand party only has 1% support in the country. So again, it shows you that if you've got extreme views and people are angry about it, Facebook fuels that hate, and it gives these parties a voice that they otherwise would not have.
Of course it does. It's just playing into, like we've talked already about the algorithm. So whether it's good, bad or indifferent, whatever's happening, if it's sharing, if it's getting engagement, if it's building traction, if it's going viral, whatever it is, Facebook's going to reward it.
Yeah, exactly. So in this particular instance, they cited misinformation about the coronavirus as the reason that they took down the content. But they've done it a few other times this week as well. So the New York Post posted an article this week which with misleading information about Joe Biden, saying that he was involved in corruption. And again, Facebook have banned that content from being shared. They also announced that they were going to ban any advertising on from anti-vaxxers in terms of why vaccines or why a potential coronavirus vaccine may be bad for you. So then it's another thing that they're going to do. And amazingly, and this, like, it's shocking that we're in the year 2020 and Facebook is only doing this now, but Facebook have also said that they are going to be taking down posts from Holocaust deniers, which again is just an insane thing for me to be saying for the biggest media company in the world to saying that they're going to now stop giving a platform to Holocaust deniers.
As if it just kind of popped up.
As if it just kind of popped up. It's incredible. And again, it just shows you how dangerous Facebook is and how asleep at the wheel Facebook has been for years and years and years. And again, it was the result of Brexit, it was the result of Trump. Like, the damage has been done. This is maybe mitigating against some of that damage, or they're starting to change, but it's too late. Like, they should have made these changes years ago.
It'll be interesting to see now if they touch anything in terms of political, especially with the election coming up in America.
Trump. I know they said that they were going to start banning some political advertising, I think in the day before and immediately after, or something like that. But I mean, what I think is happening here is that Trump obviously loves Twitter, Facebook, the sensational platform that they give him. I think they're kind of worried, okay, Big Joe is coming, he's coming to the White House, and he's not going to be taking the shit that Trump did for the last number of years. So I think they're kind of saying damage limitation. If we don't do something ourselves, the US government are going to make us do stuff that we don't necessarily want to do. So look, it's going to be interesting to see how it progresses. But look, I'm not giving Facebook any compliments here. They should have done this years ago. This is just a thing that should be built into their platform. Simple as that.
Something probably running alongside that happened in Pakistan, and they decided this over the last few days that they banned TikTok. Basically, the Pakistan Telecommunication Authority came out and said that after receiving so many complaints about immoral and indecent content, that they decided to ban it. Well, first they actually issued it with a warning, giving them time to respond and comply with instructions that were set out, but TikTok failed to fully comply with the Telecommunication Authority, and basically they were banned. They have apparently left the door open, as they're saying, for re-engagement, but that only will come with TikTok reviewing the app and making moderation more of a key. But yeah, no, it's banned in TikTok. But when you hear that now, apparently it's been downloaded 39 million times in Pakistan. But when you look at 35% of the 212 million citizens that have access to the internet, it's not that much. So it's not a big loss, I suppose, to TikTok.
Well, look, I mean, I don't.
Of course, it's a couple of millions, but it's not.
Like, I mean, immoral content. I'm not sure people dancing along to funny videos or catchy videos is what I would consider immoral. I'd say the barometer there is slightly different now in Pakistan.
And it's not the first. It's not the first country either. India has also banned it, and obviously we knew what was happening with America recently, that they were planning on banning it there. But
in Pakistan, there's been so Facebook, Twitter, and Google have a bit of alliance when it comes to Pakistan. So reading a little bit about this during the week, as I didn't really know that much about it, but Pakistan doesn't really have that many laws or policies related to data protection. So recently Pakistan kind of introduced what they're calling censorship laws, which would basically allow them to pick and choose what content would be allowed on Facebook, what people could search for on Google and stuff like that. Twitter, Facebook and Google basically came together and said, our platforms don't work this way. So it's actually interesting given the conversation that we just had in terms of, I think the country should be clamping down on these tech companies in terms of the content that's been put up online. But in this particular case, obviously the type of content that the Pakistani government is taking down is different to what I would view as a Westerner as being something that should be censored. So it's just interesting the difference in the cultures and the different approaches the different countries are taking to these tech companies.
No, definitely. It depends on, as you said, it depends on the country you're in and what the social laws and social, I suppose, ideals and morals are in that country.
That's essentially it, yeah.
Anything else pop up for you?
The only other one there, I suppose, for me really was iPhone 12 launched, and on the day that it launched, Apple had an intra-day loss of $81 billion.
Small money,
which is, to be fair, it's about 2.7% of their overall market capitalization that they lost, so it's not small.
I saw that they did lose more, and they got it down to 2.7.
They clawed it a bit back, they clawed it back a little bit. But I mean, I suppose I thought it was a bit kind of, like, look, it was a bit... It's always strange when you have a company launching a new product like Apple, who have a massive track record in the market. Again, $2 billion company, or $2 trillion company. But in this particular case, it just hasn't worked out for them. I think a lot of people were slating them online because they said the iPhone 12 was very, very similar to the iPhone 5, I believe, in terms of its shape. And there wasn't really, I suppose, with the exception of 5G, and the majority of the population don't know what 5G is or how it's going to impact them. So there wasn't anything kind of new, exciting, sexy in relation to the release. Like, I know they've got better camera and stuff like that, thinner, faster download speeds, all that kind of stuff that you would expect. But there wasn't any wow factor for me in terms of the launch in and of itself, with the exception of 5G. But I think the majority of the population don't really know what that means for them, and so there wasn't that much excitement about it.
It just doesn't surprise me. We mentioned in the last podcast, I am not an Apple user, so I have no intention of going out and even looking at what the features are of it. But it's just another phone that's going to get everyone out buying it.
Well, it's a bit more than that. Like, I mean, to be fair, with 5G, it is going to enhance technology in terms of the power of things like augmented reality. 5G is incredibly important for automated vehicles into the future. It's going to make fitness trackers and stuff like that a lot more advanced and enhance those. But again, the actual practical, I mean, that's the theory.
I have no issue with the 5G. I have an issue with the phone.
The phone. I don't like the phone. I'm not a big tech.
No, you're an Apple user.
I'm an Apple user, but I'm not one of the cult, shall we say? I'm not one of the cult of Macintosh.
Am I right in saying that I hear something about a charger?
No charger, no headphones.
No charger.
Yeah,
no headphones. No headphones. No charger.
No charger. Well, everything now is the wireless charger now. Like, so they don't need the jack necessarily. But yeah, no, I think it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, Apple dressed it up in terms of it's good for the environment. But I'd also reckon it's pretty good for their margin as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Looking at profitability, smaller box. They obviously don't have to build as many less hardware. So look, it's again, for me, it's a very basic thing. I wouldn't buy a phone if it didn't come with a charger. Like, and now I'm old school. The kids, I love it, of course. It's like some fella. I saw a parody video there on YouTube, and it was actually done by one of my students, and they were talking about how technology evolves so quickly. And they did basically a video whereby 3 guys go into a gym and 2 of them have AirPods on and the other fella has just the normal headphones, and one of them turns around to the other fella and goes, "Hey, you're poor, your headphones have a wire." So it just shows you, like, over a very short space of time, how things evolve in terms of what is seen as the norm in terms of what you should buy. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, perfect. So moving on to this week's focus topic around the area of whether you should go with an agency or whether you should have someone in-house. I suppose following on from all the recent episodes that we were talking about, especially the first one about continuing your marketing throughout COVID, is probably something that we've probably been asked as a group or both asked individually over the last couple of weeks. What should people do in terms of their marketing?
I think it's a bit of a burning topic at the moment, because if, like, a lot of business owners, even though they are doing marketing, shall we say, there's often not a strategy or a plan or kind of objectives associated with that. They're just kind of doing it as part of the normal course of business. And I think it's a real stumbling block for people, because people almost, and it's one of the questions I would get asked most. If I was doing an MBA class, or I was doing an adult ed course, or I was doing a talk at a conference or something like that, one of the main questions that you're asked by small, medium business owners or startups is, where do I start?
Or should I go with an agency?
Or should I go with an agency? Do you know what I mean? So how do I navigate this? How do I navigate this process? And I suppose it's challenging for businesses, because the answer is it depends. Yeah. For me anyway, it's always it depends.
And I think it's important to say as well, so whether the two of us or individually on projects we've both worked on, we have worked with companies solely, the two of us, and we've also worked with agencies on behalf of companies. So I think we kind of come at it seeing from both sides, so we seeing both sides of the experience, I suppose. Yeah,
no, entirely. And look, I think that you do. And again, depends on what you're using an agency for. If you're using an agency for a kind of a one-off campaign where you want them to do a little bit of creative and then tie that in with a Facebook ad campaign, and maybe you're doing your digital out of home and you're doing billboards or newspaper or something like that, then the agency is fine as a kind of as a one-off, depending on your cost base, because you're not going to get in like a full-time marketer just to deal with a one-off campaign. Let's say you were launching a new store or something like that, if you were a local business. But if you are looking to develop an actual plan or an actual strategy, I think your agency involvement, you need to think really, really carefully about the agency. You need to think about the skills that agency has, because like every marketing agency is not equal in terms of what their capability and what their capacity is in terms of delivering on projects. And then it's also, how do you manage this project in-house? Because if you're a client of an agency, you're gonna know more about your business than they ever will. So you have to be on top of, via a project manager, a consultant who knows more about your business. You need some linkage there, I think, between the agency and between your business in terms of how that relationship is going to work, how the comms are going to work, what are the deliverables. Understanding what success means, I think, is really, really important in establishing from the outset of any project. And I think that comes down to your scoping. And that's what I would say to anyone when they are looking to get to start on a marketing plan strategy. Start off with your scope. What do you want to achieve? What are the resources that you have? What is the overall objective? And once you understand that, then work backwards in terms of how's the best way to achieve these particular goals.
I think to go into it even a little bit more, so obviously coming from my end of things, being more on the kind of practical element and actually working with small medium businesses locally, I am always an advocate for having someone in-house. I think obviously, look, it depends on the business's budget, and obviously things are kind of gone belly up recently with COVID and trying to see where you can put your money in your budgets, but I don't think anyone can talk about your business as well as you can, or someone in your business. Obviously it's very hard then for an owner driven business to be managing the social media and coming up with campaigns and dealing with designers or whatever it is, but I think it's very, very important to have someone in-house, because they, as I said, you can't rely on someone else to speak about your business as well as you can. And obviously someone coming in from any business owner, if you're getting someone in, you should make sure that they have an induction period where they learn everything they can learn about your business and are able to speak about your product or your brand as well as you can. Would you agree with that?
Oh no, 100%. It's the first thing that I say to any student or anyone who I'm talking about going to a job. First thing that you should do, if you're working on the floor, you're working in marketing, you're working whatever, first thing you should be doing is getting to know the finance guys, get to know the sales guys, get to know the commercialization element of that company. If you don't understand a company's business model and how it works and how you deliver your product to market, then how can you possibly go and develop a marketing strategy, and how can you possibly integrate an agency within your organization. Do you know what I mean? But I think, so just to go into a bit of the kind of the nitty gritty of this, shall we say, in terms of agencies and not agencies and stuff like that. So for example, I'm working on a project at the moment where there's a national, well, some sort of an international retailer, in that they've got a local store, but they're selling everything that they have through their Facebook page as well, and it's all over the phone. So in a COVID world, they decided, let's invest heavy in an e-commerce website. So involved in that whole process, it's a huge project. So you're not just looking at developing a website, you're looking at developing a website, getting the e-commerce platform integrated within that overall website. You're looking at integrating your EPOS system with your e-commerce site so that your stock matches up and so you can track everything across all of your stores, across your warehousing. You then need a marketing strategy or an outreach strategy to make sure that you're reaching the right customers via Google search, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, PR, whatever that kind of element is. In that particular environment, there is no real, unless now you're going to one of the mega global agencies like Uncommon now or VaynerMedia or any of these kind of guys, the global guys. If you're going for a kind of a national player, it is very, very rare that you will come across an agency that covers all of those different strands. They might be experts in e-commerce, but then they won't have the expertise in terms of your EPOS system, for example, and how that integration might happen and how that then links in with your overall supply chain. So that's where I think having a kind of a consultant or a more generalist marketer or a strategist in place becomes very, very important. And that could be a consultant, or it could be a marketer in-house, or it could be just the owner of a business or a manager within a business who is given kind of project lead on that so that they can see all the different things that go on in a business. And if agency over here might think something is going brilliantly, but if that conflicts with your supply chain or it conflicts with your EPOS system or how you run your retail outlet or their resources that they're used to working with isn't how you run things, that then is a big issue. It's a big challenge.
I think even what you're saying there now is probably even more top heavy than what a lot of marketing practitioners will go into, like in terms of the strategy, and not top heavy, but I suppose getting someone that's in the nitty-gritty side of things, in the day-to-day running, coming up with a website or, as you were saying, an e-commerce platform, they don't come along every day. So having someone that's the day-to-day running of the business, you might get someone in then or on a consultancy basis for the bigger projects or, the bigger campaigns. But I'm even on about the day-to-day running of the business. You can't rely on someone else to do that, I think.
No, I don't know. I think no, and to be fair, no, I agree with that. In terms of the day-to-day running, relying on an agency who's going to give you, what is it, like they'll say, we'll give you 10 posts a month or we'll monitor. Again, that doesn't really do it for me. Like, I mean, and again, we're both of the opinion that social media is meant to be social in terms of the content that's produced. If you're just relying on an agency, they're just going to be going through the brochure almost, the standard graphics. There's going to be nothing social, nothing interesting, nothing interactive there. Unless, again, you're spending the mega bucks on getting someone to go into your business a few times a week with a camera and videoing stuff. Do you know what I mean? That absolute content creation role, but very few SMEs can afford that realistically.
As you touched on it there, like I think when you go... Now, I'm not slating all agencies. I'm saying some of them are very, very good at what you do. As you said, there might be some more based towards content creation, but the kind of run-of-the-mill, I suppose, even opinion that a lot of agencies will go down the route of, as you said, 10 posts, and it becomes just very stock. It just looks, it's like, you take a template off the shelf from another business that you worked with as an agency and you apply it to this business, and there's no creativity around each company that you work with, or really integrating what they do and what they stand for, and it just doesn't happen when it comes to an agency sometimes.
But regardless of that, it goes back to what I was saying at the start. It all comes back to what your objective is as a marketer, as a company, as a business. If your objective is very, very minimal brand building, maybe you're at capacity, maybe you're happy where you're at as a business, you're not necessarily looking to grow, then just having that stock content going out for a lot of people is fine. Now, I don't agree with it, again, if you're trying to grow your business, but I think where the agencies become really, really useful is that they have loads of different experts in multiple different areas under the one roof. So, for example, if you're going back to that example that I'm giving you about the e-commerce site that I'm building at the moment, and I'm the project lead and consultant on that particular project, the agency that we're working with has specialists in search engine optimization. Not that they'll be doing it on a regular basis, but just to get them started, to give them templates to work off in terms of product descriptions, in terms of what will go into your meta descriptions on a website, in terms of how to conduct basic keyword research to identify SERPs and so on and so forth. You've got designers in there, you've got back-end developers who can integrate with the EPOS system and build the actual e-commerce site. You've got front-end designers who are going to make the website look slick or immersive, as I like to call it. When someone lands on your website, they should want to purchase from it, or they should want to stay on it. But then you've got me in the business working on the strategy, and you've also got a project manager in the business working alongside me who's full-time. They're kind of in they're basically a kind of an office administrator. The business manager effectively is what they're doing, and they also take care of some of the marketing in terms of content creation on the day. And again, they do great work, but that kind of messy equation works for that business because they can't afford to bring someone in full-time, but yet they have allocated the resources towards content creation in-house, whilst also relying on the expertise externally that they would never be able to bring in-house. And again, I would be like, again, if you're a small business and someone comes up to you and they says, oh yeah, I'll build a website for you and I'll do the e-commerce and I'll integrate and I'll do the EPOS and stuff like that, something is going to go wrong, because no one that I've ever come across has all of those skills. They might be okay at some of them, but they'll never be experts at all of them, and you need that.
Yeah. But it's like, as you know, we've seen plenty of even marketing roles up for grabs, you know, in terms of job adverts and all that kind of stuff. And it's very much, you must have experience in content creation, you must have experience in running social media, you must have experience in e-commerce, you must have experience in web management, you know, and you must be able to Photoshop,
After Effects, video editing, everything.
Like, you know, and I think from a business point of view, they really need to sit and understand what a marketing manager role is, what a social media manager role is, what, you know, a PR role is, what all these kind of things, and actually realize that it is very, as you said, it's very, very hard to find someone that ticks all those boxes.
And that's why, to me, again, I'll say it over and over again, it comes back to your objectives as a business and how you go about achieving those objectives. There's no point in a marketer in-house doing email campaigns if those are not critical to you achieving certain key performance indicators associated with you generating business revenue. There's just not. At the same time, I've seen businesses who have huge marketing teams and some of them are just doing email marketing, and I'm kind of going, what do you do all day?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And again,
for the one newsletter,
yeah, exactly. And again, I'm not saying, like, I mean, there is certain businesses, depending on their size, where you do need a dedicated email marketing manager, or you do need someone dedicated to Facebook advertising, whatever. But again, with the majority of SMEs, you don't have that flexibility. And what I would always say to people is that, yeah, you need the resources in place in terms of personnel, and I'm big on people in terms of getting the right team in place. And once you get the right team in place, you can achieve huge things. But when you're looking to hire someone else in, if you're spending 35 grand on hiring in another marketing executive or an email marketing manager, that's 30 grand that isn't going into content creation, or it isn't going into distribution of your ads on Facebook. Do you know what I mean? So there is a very, very delicate balancing act that goes on here in terms of matching, again, your objectives with your resources within an overall business strategy, and in terms of how marketing can help you achieve your business goals.
I think it's another thing to talk about there is everything we've kind of talked about so far is very, very digital oriented.
Yeah.
And a lot of agencies now, even, you know, new agencies that are starting up left, right and centre, there seems to be kind of, it's a trend to come up with a marketing agency kind of a thing, or a digital marketing agency. But I think the old school agencies that everyone would know in terms of marketing obviously came purely from a traditional point of view, where it's your print, your ad, your radio, whatever it is. Probably a lot of old school marketing heads coming into that. But do you think that they're able to make that transition into digital?
Some of them have, some of them haven't. Like I've dealt with, and again, I'd be very, very picky and choosy. It is very rare that I would have a business that would only work with one agency. I would typically have multiple, and it's not even agencies, it's people within agencies that I tend to kind of do a pick and mix on. Because again, like we've all heard of them, there are agencies out there who were very, very traditional, and they have just gravitated over into digital without really being very proficient in it. And And again, they get away with it.
Or without bringing in a specialist.
Correct, yeah, exactly.
In digital marketing.
And that's where your consultant is really important then, so they can actually call out, no, that doesn't work. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and again, like, there's some traditional agencies who have been incredible, and in a lot of cases, actually, some of the traditional agencies that have pivoted are some of the best in the business, because they still look at things like strategy, brand, creative messaging, whereas a lot of the digital agencies now are almost too digital and they forget about the creative piece in between. Yeah. So again, it's a mismatch. For me, it's all down to understanding, again, what your objectives are, and then linking it back to what specific needs you have to execute this particular campaign, e-commerce project, maybe it's PR, whatever the case may be. So I think it really comes down to what you want to do for your business.
I think you touched on a point there that you will go to certain, I'd be definitely the same, you go to certain agencies or companies because you deal with a specific person in there, and you know the skills they have and the experience that they've had. Maybe they've moved from one company to another and you moved your experience with them. But what I don't like sometimes when you go to an agency is you could be dealing with 10 different people. You know, whatever time of the day you call or whatever day of the week you call, you're passed on to someone else, and you don't have a relationship with a person in there. And I think that's what sometimes a lot of agencies miss out on, that they don't have whether they have the experience or not, but then they consult with the back end team in terms of bringing your project. I don't want to deal with absolutely everyone sometimes.
I think it depends, right? So if I was a business manager and I wasn't a marketer, I would want an account manager on the agency side, and I would want them to be communicating everything backwards.
That's what I meant, yeah.
From me, because as a consultant, I almost want to be the project manager. Therefore, I want to be talking to all these different people, because messages get lost in translation between me, the account manager. Again, the more layers you have in any communication channel, the more diluted or the more contorted the message. Exactly. Yeah. So again, it comes down to how a project is managed. But no, absolutely, like, you should never be dealing with 10 people in an agency, unless, again, you know how to speak with these people. Like, I mean, realistically, should you be talking about, like, if you're a business owner, should you be spending hours and hours on end talking with an SEO marketing manager on the specificities around technical SEO? No, because you're not going to know what they're talking about. You deliver what you want to achieve to the account manager, and then they talk tech to the technical SEO guy in the background. So again, it depends on what it depends on what you want and what your needs are for a particular project or for a particular business. But expertise, like having expertise and scoping, is so important. And I realise that I'm repeating myself here quite a lot, because you don't want a scenario where you go to an agency and you give them a carte blanche, white slate in terms of what they think you want.
And you need to be handing them a blank check.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And agencies, like, they are expensive, and they're worth it if you get a good one. Yeah. But if you get a bad one, you can be torn to pieces. Like, and again, it's down to expertise. I remember dealing with an agency years ago, and they said that they were specialising in web development. Well, my God, what they produced, it went straight on the bonfire. It was appalling, and they were promoting themselves as a web agency. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's understanding the tricks of the trade as well, and knowing people. So I remember this was years ago, about 8 years ago, I'd say, I was involved in a branding project. So new tech startup. They needed logo, brand guidelines, content creation, all that kind of stuff needed to go into this, and they didn't have any funding or anything at the time, really. They were kind of bootstrapping it, and I remember speaking to, again, an agency who said that they specialised in branding for tech startups. And they quoted something like, and they quoted, well, no, it was one of their specializations, shall we say. And it was around the time when tech startups were like the thing. Everyone was an entrepreneur. Everyone was, still the case nowadays, I suppose. But they quoted 45 grand for the overall project. And the company, I advised against it. The company eventually ended up getting funding, and they ended up paying the 45 grand. Whereas, like, we use some of the same designers, and I can guarantee you would get the same result for 2 grand, 3 grand from working with guys that you know,
and much more personal interaction with that person as well. You'll actually have more of an input, and they will have more of an input in terms of offering their opinions, not so much away with you come back
do
when
what you
it's
want.
done.
Yeah, no, entirely. Now again, some agencies are brilliant. They'll bring you in, they'll do the focus groups with your team, give you a coffee, a nice coffee. They'll do the idea generation. They'll go and look at your competitors. They'll do a huge amount of work. And again, it depends on what the scope of the project is. Some businesses just can't afford to do the textbook process that you go through when you're looking to engage in brand construction. So again, be careful, like a lot of, and shop around, ask people in the industry. Like, I mean, again, the majority is something like 60% of marketing jobs aren't even advertised, 70%, because again, it's all about deliverables. So again, the same thing applies to agencies. There's really, really good agencies. There's really, really bad agencies, and it's not necessarily about price, but it's about the deliverable at the end. If you get a good agency, they can be worth millions to your organization versus what you're paying in, whereas other agencies are going to be a time drain, they're going to be a resource drain financially, and the results that you get at the end of it just won't give you anything. And I think I would always worry when I walk into an agency and they start talking about what they can do rather than what your business wants to achieve.
And one thing that always is a pet peeve for me when you go in, I've dealt with an agency there only within the last say 3 years. I went to them and said, look, I want to come up with this specific project for a specific business I was working with, and I went into them and said, look, we need to come up with something creative for a launch. And straight away they were like, oh yeah, we'll look at rebranding your logo, and we'll look at rebranding. I said, hold on now, I never said any of that. Don't touch the logo. We'll work on the project. I said
they were selling you the a la carte menu, basically. Yeah.
But one of the pet peeves I would have when it definitely comes to agencies, and once again, as you said, some of them are brilliant at it, and some of them work very closely with your company. But one of the pet peeves I have is as you were talking about the different menu packages, they'll sell you the retainer package, and you won't hear them. You will not hear from them until next month when the next bill comes out, or unless there's something happens that you need them, but it could go a month without hearing from them.
That comes back to what you were saying there earlier on about kind of getting the part-time freelancer, getting someone in-house. And again, like what we've done a few times at organizations is we say, if I look after the strategy, you come in 10 hours a week, whatever amount of times it needs to be, and do the practical kind of implementation side of things, and then over time that might evolve into a full-time role once the owner is kind of assured that this marketing stuff actually generates revenue for me. But then at the other side as well, it also allows them to maximize their resources at a particular moment in time. So if someone came along to me and they said, well look, I've got 20 grand, and I'm kind of going, right, they've 20 grand, that could get you, and I'm just picking these figures out of the head, that could get you a really junior marketer, but with no resources. Would you be better off getting in a specialist for 10 grand? They work part-time, but then they have 10 grand to play with in terms of a budget for content creation, for distribution, whatever the case may be. So again, that comes down to the day-to-day management, and you're almost scaling your marketing department with your own business and the trajectory of your business, because that's really, really important. Because like marketing, you rarely get, and you do hear about it, but you rarely get instant results. Brand building is a months, years process.
It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in the first week.
Yeah, and you need resources for that. You need people for that, and it needs to be filtered back into an overall strategy.
So I suppose in the time at the moment where we are in terms of businesses, we're looking at the possibility of another lockdown again, restriction on business operations, whether it has to be, you shut down maybe for a restaurant to shut down serving outside, takeaway only. What do you recommend maybe for some businesses that are looking at this? Should they invest in marketing? We talked a little bit about it in the first episode. But do you think businesses, what should they be looking at?
So one thing that I'm surprised that business, now maybe they do, I just don't come across it that much, but I don't understand really why a lot of businesses don't come together and work with. So for example, if you had butcher, baker, candlestick maker, they're all in the same street, shall we say, or they're all part, but they're non-competing businesses, so they're not competing with each other necessarily, or they're indirectly competing with each other but not directly. Why wouldn't you get together and say, okay, we're going to hire a marketing guy who'll work with each of our businesses, split the costs. We're going to go to an agency to build websites for all of us, but we're going to be looking for a 30% discount on the basis that they're getting all of us, 3 websites in the one go, and start pooling together those resources necessarily to try and actually get the results out of it in terms from a resource mobilization perspective. So again, that's something that I think could happen a lot more, and that's maybe again where the consulting kind of comes in, where they say, okay, I'm actually working with 2 other guys as well, I'm going to go to the agency and I'm going to see if I can get you a discount on the basis that there's a few of you going for the same stuff. And again, those relationships can be difficult to manage, and there's always the politics of, well, you're giving more time to me than you're giving to the business down the road, or less time, or whatever the case may be. But again, I think it's about punching smart, and I realise again, I'm not giving an answer here. This is all context specific depending on your business and what your business goal is, and how marketing is a vehicle to help you achieve your business goals through strategy and then the tactics associated with that strategy.
I think another thing for businesses not to forget about is, yes, you might be looking into COVID coming in the next couple of weeks, but I only sat with a business owner yesterday who was actually starting to discuss, and so for some businesses this might be late, they're absolutely shitting themselves now at the thought of us even saying this. Christmas is coming down the line, it's not too far away, you have to be on top of that now.
COVID is going to kill Christmas. It's going to be depressing. I love Christmas so much, and it's going to be so bad. It's going to be heartbreaking.
It is, but I want a big present, you know what I'm
saying? I'll get you a Social Antics mug.
But I think like one thing we were talking about yesterday is basically a campaign around Christmas that they're going to be offering click and collect, where normally this will be an in-store kind of a shop. But basically he was wondering, what's a good way of going about it? Who should I get someone in to run it for a couple of months? And yes, look, why not? There is loads probably of marketers out there looking for projects to get their hands on and get involved in. So like, start reaching out, looking for people saying we're interested in someone to come on board, whether they have experience, as you said, in specifically down towards e-commerce, or whether it's more so towards social advertising or content creation. There is people out there, as you said, start working together, start looking for who's open to projects at the moment, and it might benefit your business.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to what you want to do. Like, I mean, if you've got a specific product that you want to push during Christmas because it's a high volume, high margin type product, and that's the only thing that you want to, and you don't have a huge amount of resources there for marketing, again, just do a little bit of a scope check. How much will it cost me to get in a photographer, a videographer, and then pay a marketing guy to basically come in, set up my Facebook shopping, my Instagram shopping, link it in with my website, and just press play and go, and they give you a report once every 2 weeks. And then you don't have the ongoing cost of hiring someone to do the social media or whatever the story is. Now again, I think nowadays, again, it's very easy for us to say the textbook solution, you should get someone in-house and you should have the agency for the specializations and you should do this and this. There's a practicality that has to come with doing business during a COVID-19 scenario in general, but particularly during a COVID-19 scenario. But again, if you're looking to shift product and you think marketing is the way to do that, then again, going to even an agency and saying to them, I just want to shift this product. That's all I want to do. And they can sort you out with a photographer, videographer, set you up on your Facebook shopping, Facebook ads, and press play, and away you go. Come back to me and let's see if things are moving. Again, that's not how we would usually do things. You usually measure where your conversions are coming from, tweaking your targeting, tweaking your budget, changing your creative, A/B testing. That's all the stuff that we would like to do, but that's not always possible.
The budget's not there for it.
Yeah, it's not there for it. So again, there's a practicality that needs to come with making these decisions. But what I would also say to businesses, particularly in the SME space, is try and engage in some marketing activity to drive revenue over these next few months.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think we'll wrap it up there for this week's episode. Thanks everyone for listening, and if you have any thoughts on what we talked about, or even any you need any advice, or reach out to us and we'll see what we can do for you. But thanks for listening in.
Who the hell is going to ask us for advice after listening to this shite for the last 50 minutes?
Not you can contact me personally on
contact Dave Doyle at davedoylesagency.agency.
That's it, the agency of me, myself, and No, thanks very much everyone for listening. Follow us on social media, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.
Talk to you.